r/AskReddit. Reddit. At what point did you realize it was time to give up on a relationship? I flew out to see my girlfriend for a 3-day weekend to celebrate her graduation, and I didn't feel like I had a girlfriend most of the time. I feel like I gave her a lot of leeway and space since she was hanging out with friends and family, but on the final day I was there, she barely wanted to talk to be around me. She didn't want to eat anything in the morning until I made myself breakfast. Then suddenly she was hungry. We watched some television in her apartment because she didn't feel like going anywhere. Her friend called her and asked if she wanted to go to a bar, and suddenly she perks up, changes into a dress, and is ready to go, and says on the phone within earshot, "Oh, we just need to drop off my boyfriend at the airport, then we can go have some fun." Her friend was very rude and racist, talking as I weren't even there, and took her time driving to the airport, only getting me to the terminal a half an hour before my flight was supposed to take off. I got out, grabbed my stuff, and had to run to the terminal to make my flight. I realized on the flight that I didn't even kiss my girlfriend before leaving to go home. That was pretty much the moment I realized that this relationship wasn't working, and looking back, I figured out that she liked having a boyfriend so she wouldn't have to be alone when she was lonely, and only spent time with me on her terms when it was convenient for her. Totally one-sided and unhealthy. I tried to see her one more time when I was in town for other business, and she was too busy to hang out. So I broke up with her and haven't talked to her since. It was actually in the middle of a breakup, but I was still in shock and trying to figure out if it was really happening. We had spent the night arguing, and we were getting nowhere. Our problems were rooted in some pretty fundamental differences in lifestyle that had shown up later in our relationship, and even though we were trying to adapt, it was making us miserable. We lived in the same apartment, but after a while we gave up and went into separate rooms. The last thing she told me was, "Please, don't hurt the cats." It was so out of left field. I spent the night thinking about it. Why would I want to do that? I loved our pets. I have never been violent in my life. Did she think I was the kind of person who could do that? Either she had never known me for the past 2 years, or more likely she had turned me into somebody in her mind different than who I really was. Maybe it was her way of making it easier for herself. Either option scared me. Up until then I had thought about trying to fix things, or at least being friends still, but that stupid ridiculous moment made me really look at what was happening. I was putting so much effort into the woman I loved, but that woman I loved was gone. She was replaced by somebody I didn't know, who had dated a version of me I had never met. Edit. This got a lot more responses than I expected, a couple of which I'm not really comfortable with. I try not to hold grudges. I know nobody is perfect, and of course there are two sides to every story. To everybody that relates to this, it's just as easy to vilify somebody as it is to vilify them back for feeling they did it to you. Try hard to remember the positives, because it's sometimes human nature to fixate on the negatives, to feel justified in your feelings. I had a similar experience with a girl I dated in high school. She started drifting away from me, and I couldn't understand why. I'd come in the room and she would go out. The bell would ring for recess and she would disappear entirely until classes resumed. One day I walked into a classroom to see just her and me and nobody else. She hid her face behind a book as soon as she saw me and legit ran out the door when I approached the table. After a little bit of this, it came about she was cheating. She broke up with me so she could win the game, I guess, and started dating this other guy she'd been cheating with. She pulled this leapfrog move all the way through high school and beyond. Coming ahead to a couple years ago, I ran into her and her now husband in a restaurant. She waves me over and I sit down to catch up. It is quickly apparent she is only willing to talk about the good old days and will quickly dominate and steer the conversation back there if it strays to current events. She very much peaked in high school. In any case, the evening opens, after the usual pleasantries, with a twisted retelling of the events I outlined in the beginning. She talks about how scary and angry I was in high school, how I would shake people down for her location as she, the battered heroine, hid herself away. She talked about how, in the occasion with the book, I had physically attacked her and hurt her both audibly and bodily before she was able to escape. My side of the conversation falters and goes silent as she proceeds to go through every boyfriend she has ever had in chronological order and gives them all the same literary treatment. I'm looking at her husband, he's looking at me, and I can tell that we are both just waiting for this to end. Eventually she gets to the present and starts in awe her husband, who is sitting right there. I'm eventually able to extract myself from the situation and get the fuck out. A few days later I share the strangeness with a mutual friend over Facebook. From her I learn that she does this often enough to call it common, and that she has been abusing her husband since day one, and he is afraid to leave. What a twisted way of looking at the world. To be such a terrible person that you have to rewrite the story of your life and make yourself the hero. TL. Doctor boyfriend of 2.5 years blew me off to hang out with a new female friend the day after my dad died. To summarize as best I can, my father suddenly fell into a coma my junior year of college. I flew out to see him and my mom and spent about 2 weeks there before the doctors confirmed our fears. He was unlikely to ever come out of it and would have significant damage if he did, likely blind and mute, almost entirely paralyzed, etc. Per his living will, we asked that my father be taken off of life support. I wasn't really in contact much with anyone from college during this time period, as I obviously had other things on my mind. When I got home, the first thing I did was go to my boyfriend's room, we still lived in the dorms, to tell him what had happened. I got about 5 minutes into the explanation, clearly distraught, when a girl I'd never met before walked in. My boyfriend proceeded to greet her and chat with her for 45 minutes, completely ignoring me the entire time. I finally left, went back to my room, and cried until I went to sleep. Next morning, he knocks on my door, I assumed, to check on me. Nope. Instead, he sits me down and tells me that I'm the reason he never has any fun at college. Of course that's it, not his 4chan/lol addiction and nocturnal sleep schedule and severe depression, and that things needed to change, or we needed to take a break. We were on again off again anyway, so this wasn't exactly out of the blue. However, it really made me realize that he didn't actually care about me in any way I could understand. Apparently, while I had been standing by my father's deathbed, he had been getting drunk and flirting with this girl. Drinking and flirting being two things he constantly reprimanded me for, perceived or otherwise. So I happily agreed to break it off then and there. Funny thing is, that girl turned out to be certifiably insane, started stalking him months later, and by then he was asking to get back together with me. Shamefully, I actually entertained the notion for a little while, but then he lost his shit at me when he found out I was trying for grad school, and I remember just what a miserable person he was. I was with my ex for about 2.5 years. The first year or so was fantastic. I didn't get along great with her family, but neither did she, so that didn't really bother either of us. We moved in together, and things slowly started to fall apart. She had a 6-year-old daughter, and it quickly became apparent that I was there to be her babysitter while she went out with her friends. She also refused to have a job in the summer. She had gone back to college, so I was stuck footing the bill for everything, minus the few hundred in baby bonus we would get every month. During that next summer she got back into playing WoW, and then when September rolled around, she didn't go to a single class, instead opting to spend all day, every day, sitting on the couch in front of her laptop playing WoW. Meanwhile, I was waking up at 7 AM to get her daughter ready for school, taking her to school, coming home, getting ready for work, going to work, coming home, cooking, doing the dishes, then maybe have 10 minutes to relax before getting ready for bed. Naturally, we started to fight constantly. By that point it had already been about 5 months since we had had sex. I realized this was a terrible environment to raise a child, and that I hated her, my ex, not her daughter, more than I thought possible. So one day I walked into the living room and said, "I'm not happy anymore." "You're not happy anymore. Daughter isn't happy anymore. I can't put her through that anymore, so I'm leaving." And moved out 3 days later. That was the last time I saw her. We emailed back and forth a few times. About 2 months later one of our mutual friends died. I emailed her to tell her when the funeral was. She never responded and never showed up. Last I heard, about 2 years ago now, she had dumped her daughter at her sister's house and taken off, and nobody really knew where she was. In all honesty, that makes me very happy, because at least I know her daughter is being properly raised by parents who actually care about her, and are able to dedicate the time to her. Edit. Since I'm getting asked a lot about her daughter, when her and I separated it was made pretty clear to me that I was to have no contact with her. I wasn't even allowed the opportunity to explain to her why I was leaving. Her aunt and uncle who took her in are good people, so I know at least that she has a good life now. They did, however, move halfway across the country, so they are nowhere near where I'm now. Canada is really big. I was also pretty young at that point. I was 10 years younger than my ex, and was probably not the best father figure available. She is better without me in her life, much the same, although entirely differently, as she is better without her whole mother. I'm literally in a parking lot right now waiting for my GF of 4 years to get here, so we can have dinner and have the talk. When things become more sadness and anger than happiness, it's time to walk away. I love this girl with all of my heart, but if I can't keep her happy, we can't be happy. A friend of mine once told me that relationships of all kind are like bank accounts. Good times fill the account, bad times drain it. If you find yourself constantly overdrafting, it's time to let both yourself and the other person free. In my situation, I love this girl with all of my heart. I can honestly say she's changed my life for the better in ways I can never thank her enough for. What I need to understand is that no matter how much I love her and how I would do anything to make her happy, if she isn't, then I have to let her be happy. Simply by trying to save us, I'm destroying her. I know she does love me as well, but you can't force happiness, even on yourself. Out of our care and love for each other, we keep trying to fix things after the arguments, but all we're doing is trying to force two mismatched puzzle pieces together. I would do anything for her, and what I have to keep telling myself is that I have to let her go so she can be happy. You can love something with all of your heart, but it has to be both ways. Thank you for the opportunity to vent. Edit. Added text. Dinner is at 6. Better head in and wait. Thanks for making me feel not alone. Random internet folks. Edit 2. Dinner is done. We came home and continued to talk. Dinner didn't go well. She was angry and walked out. I packed everything to go and we came home. We know this is over. We know that we can't keep going on like we are. It seems everything we do upsets each other and the fights are getting worse. It used to be occasional, then it progressed to monthly, and now it's an odd occurrence when we go 2 weeks without a major fight. I simply can't make her happy anymore. The person I am does not fit with the person she is. I need to let her go and be happy. I'm fighting myself every step of the way, from breaking down and just trying to push everything back together again. Everywhere I look I see the home we built together. Every painting on the wall, the damn wrinkle on the rug even. This is something we built together, and now it will fall apart. I bought this house before we got together, so we started discussing where she's going to go. I'm the breadwinner of the relationship, so I know she is not equipped to be out on her own. I offered to pay for her apartment. We will look on Wednesday for a nice condo downtown near her office and a nightlife area that we both love. I'm the person I'm today because of her. We built this home to what it is, and I can't simply tell her to move out. I can't live with her while we are separated either. I love her and will continue to make sure she's safe and taken care of even if she's not mine anymore. She was incredibly thoughtful and mature and said that I can't, but I insisted I ensure she has a roof over her head and does not struggle. She said one day I will love another girl and she won't allow me to be paying for her rent while I'm with her, as it would not be right. So we agreed to a payoff of 6 months. I'll prepay her rent to give her enough time to get on her feet. I'm overwhelmed right now and will probably just be on Reddit all night, so feel free to PM or post. Last month the paramedics had to be called because my BF, 21, of 5.5 years took too much, or too frequently, of a PCP analog. He didn't have to go to the hospital, but had a nice chat with the paramedics that his mum and I thought might wake him up. The past month I've been struggling with whether or not to end this. Thinking about how I'd have to be the one calling paramedics, cleaning up his messes, whether or not I want to raise children with him, etc. Since then I've been a bit distant while he's been super horny and all. I want to marry you and be with you forever. It's been a really hard stressful month for me, wondering if I was in a slump or just not all that into him anymore. I've been giving him plenty of sex without wanting it myself, and he still wants more. I've hated him touching me and admiring my body. Makes me quite upset. After a small chat where I didn't bring up my fears, I decided to try giving him another chance to see if it was a slump I could work through. He had said that I could talk to him about anything, so I thought if it got worse I could strike up the nerve to have that chat. Well, Saturday morning at 4 AM, less than 24 hours after I had seen him, and 36 hours after deciding to give him a second chance, his mother calls me to tell me that he is in the hospital, unconscious, and they didn't know if he would make it out. He has since gained consciousness, is in seclusion on the psych ward under 24-hour watch. Since the call I've slowly begun breaking up with him on my own, straightening out my thoughts so we can have a proper talk when he gets out. It's going to be hard, but I don't plan to break up with him until he's out of the hospital, because I just don't think he needs extra piled on top. Or should I do it while he has access to the psychiatrist? Advice would be appreciated on this one. I care about him very much, and I want him to be happy. All I'm doing is enabling this behavior by sticking around while he does this stupid stuff. I feel like this is really shitty timing, and that I should have done it before this happens, because now it looks like I'm abandoning him. But at 21 I don't need to be worrying about my healthy BF dying in the hospital. I don't want to be the one calling everyone next time he odds and possibly dies. I do not need that shit in my life. I'm going to tell him that we both have some growing up to do and we can possibly reconvene at a later date, but I just can't stick around while he hurts his family and me like this. Together for 4 years, then shit got really difficult for no reason. We tried for 2 years more, but it kept getting difficult. Everything I did was wrong. I felt judged in every moment. Time I had to spend apart for work or friends felt like the end of our relationship. Small problems never had solutions, only her feelings about the problems that became almost deal breakers. Many breaking points, but she wanted to stay together. At one point, a coworker started hitting on her in inappropriate ways, trying to sext her, trying to kiss her, talk about his erections with her at work, etc. Considering she was his boss and we were together, I kept telling her I wasn't okay and was going to confront him. She begged me not to and said she'd stop talking with him, and then tried to just be friends with him. He was a douche and a half, but I started being treated like the castrated boyfriend to her new relationship. She started using me to make him jealous. The only times we seemed to connect were when he was within earshot. We went to couples counseling on her request, where I learned that she was emotionally cheating on me. Our problems were very fixable, but she just wanted to make sure I was doing okay during these tough times. She started having mental health issues and said she needed space to be single and figure her life out. She said we could still hook up if we polyamorous, but she needed space. I fought to the very end, but let us go for her well-being. It was intensely sad, but that's when I thought it was time to give up on the relationship. I wanted her to grow into a better person, and if that meant without me, I was willing to give up the most important person in my life for her. Until cut to months later, she lets me know that she fell out of love with me and knew it over 2 years ago when she stopped even putting effort into our relationship. She's also dating the coworker from work and jumped immediately into that relationship once she moved out. I put the effort to organizing and paying for counseling so she could try and let me down easy, not work on us. And it was easier for her to date again according to her because she's been over it a lot longer than I have. But she wanted to thank me for being so supportive while they found their relationship and dealing with her bullshit for 2 years. She left when she had, as she called it, an out. When I realized she tried to string me along after the relationship so I could continue to be her loving support while she fucked her coworker, I cut her out of my life immediately and truly gave up on our relationship. I learned a lot from all of this, and I'm working hard not to ever treat anyone as poorly as I was. Because as angry and profoundly hurt about it as I still am about it almost a year later, no one else deserves what I went through. I currently live with my ex. Started as roommates, as strangers. Fell in love hard and quickly. Was happier than I've ever been with a woman. We lived pretty happily for the first 6 months, but as time went on, she kept bringing up other women that I was talking to. Had no idea who she meant. She'd bring up the most random things I said to the most random girls I knew. Dumb ol' me didn't realize for a couple weeks that there should be no way she would know any of that, albeit it was very innocent conversation. Figured out she was snooping in my shit whenever I went to the gym. That was about the point that I realized it was time to give up, when I had to put passwords on my phone and computer. But was that when I actually gave up? Course not. So more and more insecure shit from her until one day I was looking for her and all I could find was her phone on the counter. Figured if someone is paranoid about you cheating, they're probably cheating. Funny thing is I knew exactly who to look for. Went to her messages, scrolled through countless guys' names till I got to Paul. Read them. Scrolled through more names till I saw Chris. Read those too. Turns out she was with these 2 guys that were our mutual friends. I don't even know what she wrote to those other 50 to 60 guys. Didn't really matter. I was livid. So that was when I gave up, right? Course not. So I forgive and continue living in my jail cell, and we continue to fight every other day. My breaking point was finally when she threatened to kill me and grabbed my wine key. I bartended off my desk and held it to my face with the craziest cunt eyes I've ever seen. Stormed out of my room and text my best friend that he should look out for me cause she is going to kill me and knows people to get her out of the country. That was when I knew it was over. The last 3 months have consisted of me putting up with her bullshit while dreams of blowjobs and booty calls danced in my head. She's finally leaving this week. The silver lining is that she fucked with my heart so much that there isn't any emotion to feel once she's gone other than pure joy. Pray that I don't get wrecked until then. We had just gotten into a head-on collision and both cars were totaled. He was thankfully okay, not banged up, acting totally normal, trying not to completely flip out at the other driver, etc. I was beat up pretty good, no broken bones or anything but some bad contusions and sprains from the impact. Seat belts hurt and the engine broke of the mounts and dislodged the dashboard into my knee. Ouch. I couldn't open my door because it was bent and my shoulder was sprained. A witness/passerby graciously pried my door open and asked with concern if I was okay. I said I think so and slowly emerged from the wreckage. That's when all the pain started to hit me. I hobbled over to the sidewalk and leaned against a building, hunched over because I couldn't stand up straight. I felt like a football player was sitting on my chest. The boyfriend asks why are you breathing like that? Not with concern, but like I'm an idiot or doing it for attention or. I replied with something like I don't know, I'm guessing because of that, and point over to the 2 cars that are stuck together in heap on the road. When the paramedics arrived I opted to go to the hospital. This was a huge decision for me, especially since I didn't have health insurance. I get into the back of the ambulance and the paramedics are asking me questions. What's your name? How long have you been breathing like that? Where does it hurt? Who's the president? And so on. The boyfriend hops in the back of the ambulance, gives me half a smile, then asks, are you okay? I reply I don't know. He sits with me in the ambulance while the paramedics put a neck brace on me and strap me to a backboard. I'm a little claustrophobic and in a lot of pain, so this experience is very uncomfortable for me. But I just keep calm, breathe, and try to be present as best I can. We are about to take off for the hospital when all of a sudden I see a wave of concern wash over my boyfriend's face. I think that the shock of everything has finally passed and that reality has set in. He jumps up and says I've got to make sure my stereo is okay. Where are they taking my car? I have to get my speaker out of the back. And he darts from the back of the ambulance. After a few steps he turns back and asks, you're gonna be okay, right? I reply I don't know. Well, do you want me to meet you at the hospital? That would be nice. Yes. What? That would be nice. Yes, I strained. Exhale. Okay. Love you. I felt like I had perfect clarity of thought, like I could see the entire interaction without taking any of it personally. I thought, yeah, no, he really does love me, just not as much as he loves his stereo. Let's see how all this unfurls. Jump ahead. When he finally arrives at the hospital, he seems concerned for my well-being. How are you feeling? I bet they have you some good stuff for the pain. Huh. Got any more of it? Haha, no really? Vertical bar. As I'm waiting for the results from my x-rays and tests, he's growing impatient. Did they tell you how long this is gonna take? Why are you still breathing like that? Seriously, how long is this gonna be? I have to work in the morning. Yeah, no. Did they say what's wrong with you? Got, why did I even come here? Yeah, no. I had to wait like 20 minutes for a cab just to get here, and it cost me so much money. Like almost $20. And I have to open in the morning. I reply with the complete clarity and calmness that shock and morphine will provide. Well, I took an ambulance here. I didn't have to wait long, but it's probably going to cost me about $800. I don't know how long all of this will take, so if you need to leave, then you should go. What did I even come here for? I'm not sure. I know why I'm here. If all you're going to do right now is complain, then I'd rather just see you another time. I felt like a fucking Zen master. At this point it's completely clear to me that after 5 years with this person, it is over. This is not the man I want by my side in a moment of need. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe the channel.